Welcome back to another video of Flesh and Blood. This time we are playing Booster Draft in Omens of the Third Age. This is the second round of the first ever Booster Draft at the Armory here in Jyväskylä. This time we are seeing Oscilio, Scion of the Third Age, playing against Aurora, Emissary of Lightning. Aurora's ability is rather simple. 2 resources, tap, destroy a lightning flow to make an embodiment of lightning. Embodiment of lightning states that when you attack, the attack gets go again. When you play an attack action card. Yes, specifically. Yes. So, Aurora is able to give go again to her attacks. She has a number of cards with the keyword Quick Strike, which reads, if this has go again, it gets something. Sometimes they get +1, sometimes they get an extra ability. So she's incentivized to give her cards go again. There are also other ways to do that than the hero's ability. Since the hero ability does cost 2 resources and a lightning flow, it's not the cheapest thing to be doing. Aurora's weapon also benefits from you having go again on your lightning attacks, because you can only activate it if you control a lightning attack, which means that there needs to be an attack that has just been attacking and has go again, so that you can follow it up with the Scorpio directly. And when it hits a hero, it deals 1 arcane damage, but it doesn't cost any resources to attack with, so this is kind of a very efficient weapon if you're able to enable it. It's just free attacks, free damage on top of whatever else you're doing. In a way, kind of similar to how Volzar is also free to activate. On the other side of things, if you have an instant card has been put into your graveyard on the turn, you're able to just tap it to amp 1 to add 1 damage. Oscilio's ability, you can pay a resource, destroy a flow, to discard a card and create a ponder token. And if an instant card is discarded this way, you can play it this turn, which is a nifty way to enable the Starfall keyword, which is found on many of the wizard cards, such as Comet Collision here, which gets extra damage if an instant card has been put into the graveyard this turn. That keyword is also found on instants themselves, which means that if you activate Oscilio's ability and discard an instant that has Starfall, for example Constella Flowslide, you can then play it, thanks to the way the ability works, from the graveyard, and it will have enabled Starfall for itself. Starting the game off here with Path of Samens in yellow, I believe. This is a very powerful attack for Aurora, since it presents split damage, which is annoying to deal with, but it can also just give itself go again naturally. So it's 1 arcane and 2 physical damage here. And it can simply just give itself go again if the opponent ends up preventing the ping. Oscilio here looks like there's some damage prevention in this hand. Cosmic Suture is available. Oscilio perhaps reaching for playing that Cosmic Suture. This has the text prevent the next 4 damage that will be dealt to you this turn, which does allow you to prevent different individual sources of damage, so it's quite useful in that regard. Here we see Oscilio activated, destroying a lightning flow to discard the Cosmic Suture. So this will create a ponder token and allow you to play the Cosmic Suture from the graveyard. And thus Starfall has been enabled. So Cosmic Suture would ping for 1 arcane damage if played from the graveyard, which indeed it will. It's also an option to activate Volzar here, for example in response to Cosmic Suture, since we forgot to do it in advance. Volzar not activated here. Or thanks to the power of take backsies, Volsar is activated here. So 2 arcane damage threatened from Cosmic Suture here on turn 0. Flipping the script. You're not dealing the damage here, I am. So Aurora has only 1 equipment piece here, and that is of the variety that cannot prevent any damage. Snap Fingers is an aggressive piece of equipment, so Aurora has very limited access to damage prevention as far as we can tell right now. Of course, there's a possibility that there are some deck cards that can prevent arcane damage. Looks like these 2 arcane damage will just go right through. 1 prevention is used for the ping of Path of Same Ends. Presumably we will see the Go Again activation. Indeed. Pitches a blue here to give it Go Again anyway. 2 more damage soaked up by the Cosmic Suture. And still 2 3-block cards left in Oscilio's hand, so it looks like Aurora would have a hard time getting damage through on this first turn of the game. Both Oscilio and Volsar have been tapped and will not be untapping until the end of Oscilio's turn, so at least Oscilio needed to expend several things to make this play. And the follow-up is simply Scorpio for 1 physical, and if it hits 1 arcane, but Cosmic Suture, we can tell, is already looking like it would prevent that. But here we see a Voltbound Duality activated at instant speed here, which will deal 1 arcane damage, so effectively sucking up that damage prevention from the Cosmic Suture. I'm not sure if blocks have already been declared. I would assume so. In which case, it looks like we're seeing some equipment here. The last card's pitched into Laced Lightning to prevent the 1 damage, so that that on-hit arcane is not coming through. And it leaves behind an Embodiment of Lightning. So Oscilio has access to Go Again when an attack action card is eventually played. But this token will just stick around for the time being. It doesn't go away unless you use it. Players draw back up, and now it's on to Oscilio. Looks like there's a few instants and an arcane damage spell. Looks like there's some options for sending some arcane damage here on this turn. No more lightning flows though, so well, and Oscilio's tapped anyway, so Oscilio activation is not an option. Aurora, on the other hand, we're seeing an Electrolyze attack there with the Go Again on its own. A useful card for converting big hands. We have an Arsenal card here and 4 more cards. So Constella Contemplation makes the bonus Ponder token, but perhaps more importantly goes to the graveyard as an instant, so that this Comet Collision comes in for 4 thanks to the Starfall ability. Can't say that I'm seeing a lot of arcane damage prevention on Aurora's side of things, but there is some lightning flows that could be banked in here or simply saved for later. The latter perhaps being the better option. We're not in a hurry to spend our lightning flows just yet. It's sitting at 18 life. Question becomes, how do we convert this hand? Yeah, takes the full 4 arcane damage here. Oscilio plays an instant here. This is an enabler for next turn. Chromatic Refinement will destroy itself and give a bonus to a red card. 2 cards drawn from the 2 ponder tokens. And we'll see if there's anything solid to put in the arsenal here. Looks like these cards aren't super amazing. We see a Calm Veil of Vault Haven placed in the arsenal. I'm not sure about the color on that one. Might have been yellow. So damage prevention that can be played from arsenal. It's also an instant, so can enable Starfall. There we see a red arcane spell. Very happy to have that follow up from the Chromatic Refinement, I bet. Aurora is activated to make an embodiment. In order to play an attack that shall be given. Go again. This is of course a useful ability, a way to convert big hands that are otherwise not going to be able to be played out. Lightning Form comes in here with go again from the embodiment, and when it hits, it threatens to make another one. Definitely a card that you'd prefer to prevent from hitting, since that embodiment can be quite powerful for converting the cards on offense for Aurora. Here we see a block for 3, and maybe we'll see that Calm Veil of Vault Haven deployed to prevent further damage. Or simply another block. Blue pitched here. I think we're seeing I believe that is a yellow. Calm Veil of Vaulthaven, preventing the next 2 damage. Covering up that 5 Exacxes. And leaving behind a Lightning Flow. It's usually quite handy to clear the arsenal as Oscilio, since you never know if a ponder token will appear. Fighting for the real estate in the arsenal. With the cards in hand, there's no leftover resource, so Aurora would have to pitch into this Electrolyze. Chooses instead to play this Rift Breaker. I want to say yellow. 5. Destroy a Lightning Flow on a hit. A good follow-up when your opponent has just created a Lightning Flow. Maybe that means that the Electrolyze was actually blue then. Yeah. Since there's a floating resource represented there. Oscilio simply says, I'll take the 5 damage. I want to play my cards. Thank you. So the Lightning Flow goes away here. It was not meant for this world. And it's back to Oscilio. Chromatic Refinement destroys itself. And that's an instant going to the graveyard, so we can amp with Volsar and play this turn to Mindfire. Very powerful, big arcane damage. 7 arcane thanks to the amp from Volsar and the bonus damage from the Chromatic Refinements. And if this deals damage, Oscilio can make a ponder token to fill up that empty arsenal. Doubtful that Aurora would be able to prevent 7 arcane damage. It is a rather large number. So it seems the arcane damage is coming through. And Oscilio is tapped to make the ponder token. That draws a Cosmic Suture, which is destined for the arsenal. And so Aurora has a big hand here. 5 cards, effectively. With the lightning flow available, we can make an embodiment here to help convert some of these cards offensively. I see at least one instant in the hand here. There's a flow through, which can be a little sneaky combat trick, perhaps securing an on-hit effect, or at the very least providing its own on-hit of creating a lightning flow. A useful resource when your life total is dwindling and your opponent is mostly sending arcane damage. There's also a Voltbound duality that can also make a lightning flow. As well as, I believe, a Flowing Storm Strike that can also make a lightning flow. I believe also a Stellar Glide, which can consume a lightning flow to get go again. Seems that is the play here, pitching that flow through and destroying the lightning flow for a 5 go again attack. I think the remaining cards in the hand are both reds, so we might not have the surplus resources here for Aurora's ability, but we might just have to use it in order to convert the cards anyway. Possibly. Rather resource intensive cards in this hand for Aurora. Oscilio needs to consider the amount of damage that could come through this turn. Doesn't want to go too low, but it's probably advisable to try and keep pressuring your opponent when their life total is going lower and they don't have the equipment pieces or even the lightning flows to stop the arcane. So pressing the advantage here seems like the line Oscilio is going for here. Taking this attack, going down to 9. And here we see the Flowing Storm Strike deployed. Very good value on this card here with the on-hit effect and the lightning flow, making it a 0 for 5 effectively in the face of arcane damage and being able to use the spell void on the lightning flow. Can be even more if we pitch into it. And with one floating resource, perhaps Oscilio is thinking this is definitely going to be a 5, maybe a 6. And so we have to be prepared for that trade-off. Trading the cards so that we can make the best of this and not give our opponent the space to build up lightning flows. At least one card committed to blocks here. And the hero ability activation. The equipment tapping the hero, preventing 1 more damage. So 4 damage covered up here. Now Aurora has the opportunity to pump it up. And we know that in the arsenal there's a little Cosmic Suture, perhaps waiting to respond to any instant shenanigans. Aurora looks to be discarding Voltbound duality. Choosing not to pump the attack itself, but rather utilize this extra card, which will deal a damage and create a flow on its own. And so Oscilio plays Star World Warning, which creates 2 Lightning Flow tokens. Activates Volsar and plays a Cosmic Suture in yellow, which thanks to Starfall and Volsar will ping 2 arcane damage and prevent the damage from Voltbound Duality. Aurora left with a single Lightning Flow here. Some of this prevention ended up being wasted for Oscilio. Perhaps could have opted to use this earlier instead of the equipment. But arsenals that last card and sends the turn back to Aurora. Had the Suture been deployed earlier in the combat chain, we would have been able to prevent some of that damage that did come through on that turn. So punished perhaps a little bit for waiting too long before utilizing these cards and banking on there being more attacks at the end than there actually was. So it's important to make sure not to wait too long before playing your damage prevention cards, especially since Cosmic Suture's prevention does carry over to subsequent sources of damage. It's not just from one source. So a very powerful card if your opponent is sending many different little chips of damage. Perhaps best utilized to ensure that you have at least one prevention, so to speak, floating to cover up the weapon itself, since that does have an on-hit that you want to avoid. Quick Succession, one of the best cards for Aurora, as evaluated by many commentators and players. A Go Again enabler that also gives +2 to your next 2 attacks that have Go Again. And so we will see a Singeing Flowstride finally coming out from the arsenal. Thanks to Quick Strike, this is now going to be dealing 1 arcane damage when it attacks. And it also comes for 5 thanks to Quick Succession's buff. So Lightning Flow will cover up this arcane damage, it seems. And a 3 block utilized to defend. So this Singeing Flowstride would then deal damage and create the Lightning Flow, it seems. Unless we can find some more damage prevention, such as from the equipment. By the looks of it, I would suspect Oscilio wants to keep some of these cards anyway. The Arc Ramp there, a powerful card when you have the arcane damage spell to utilize it, and the Lightning Flow to give it Go Again. Two damage come through, and Aurora gets that Lightning Flow. From the Singeing Flowstride. And a red Electrolyze, another Go Again attack, benefiting from the Quick Succession. So 5 Go Again. Aurora really getting her kind of big damage turn here. Of course, Scorpio Comet can be played after this, or activated after this to send in another 1+1 damage. So there is exact lethal damage represented on the table. Aurora does have access to some potentially some combat tricks here. That's something to look out for when you're in a situation like this. Storm Shard, a +3 instant that can be played for free by destroying a lightning flow. Something to think about. You don't want to get blown out by a card like that. Oscilio looks to be considering a block here with 1 card. Indeed. So 2 damage currently coming through. Indeed. 2 damage comes through. So the life totals have become equal. And Scorpio's Commentator comes in for 1+1. Oscilio definitely wants to play that Ether Sling from Arsenal next turn, one should expect. And so we'll say no blocks and use equipment to prevent the damage from Scorpio. And that'll do it. Oscilio lives to play another turn and is able to send a rather hefty sum of arcane damage on this upcoming turn, I would expect. Arc Ramp is played out here. Amp 3, destroy the flow to give it go again. And from the arsenal comes Ether Sling for 7 arcane. With only 2 lightning flows, this is exact lethal, no prevention in hand. And that's the game. Came down to just the 1 lightning flow missing to survive this, or indeed 1 piece of equipment. Aurora unfortunately not able to pick up much equipment during this draft. So yeah, we can see, we saw from this game that whether Aurora is able to have enough go again to make the turns really impactful is such a huge difference for that hero. And in this situation, when you don't have a lot of damage prevention effects, you're not able to necessarily just, you know, block with those excess cards when your opponent is just sending arcane damage. And so your hands that don't convert become, you know, really quite inefficient. As of course, normally if your opponent were attacking with attacks, you would be able to at least convert them into defense. The extra cards that are not very good to be for playing. So pretty tricky for Aurora to use the hands efficiently in that game, as we could see. And here's a view of Jyväskylä. Well, thank you for watching the second round of this draft. Stay tuned for more. Oh, and by the way, that was the Oscilio that we saw from round 1, so it's now 2-0 so far in this draft. And we will be seeing the finals, where Oscilio will be facing up against a mystery deck. Stay tuned for more. Okay, thanks, bye.